Okay, so take a look at this picture. This picture is going viral on Twitter right now. This is a picture showing men, it's male politicians, you might recognize the faces, basically being subjected to slavery, torture, and rape. And this is going viral right now. And feminists on the internet are kind of loving this picture. Okay, so you cannot tell me that this isn't some hypocritical sexist bullshit. Because just imagine if the genders were reversed in this picture. I mean, this picture is literally showing like dudes being like raped, being enslaved, like basically being sex slaves or being tortured. And the internet's finding it hilarious. I mean, let's just look at the picture. Like, look at that. First of all, look at their wrists. Look at those dudes' arms, like their hands. Those are chains. Those are like slave chains. And look at those guys in the back. Like the guys in the back being like chained up totally naked. I mean, just imagine if the genders were reversed. And this was a picture of women who were chained up and naked, and men were standing over them. I mean, I'm pretty sure that wouldn't fly for a second. And nor should it. And by the way, again, just to be very clear, AOC is not responsible for this picture. This did not come from her or her campaign. I actually think the person that posted this comic might actually even be a conservative, and they're not trying to like agree with this picture. They just did it because they were trying to make a point. But it's not so much that this video is about. It's the reactions. It's the comments. And it's the fact that a very notable feminist found this funny and reposted it. I always say you can get a true glimpse into a person's character by looking at their reactions. How do they react to things? Because it's much easier to react to something that somebody else did rather than doing it yourself. When you do something yourself, there's a certain degree of responsibility. But when you're reacting to something that someone else did, you kind of have a sense of safety by blending into the crowd. Now, as you can see, this is someone who retweeted the picture. This is Emraz. She's a very popular feminist figure on Twitter. This is her main account. She has over 200,000 followers, and she's a very prominent feminist figure. Now, she responded to this picture, and she retweeted this picture, and she seems to find it funny. And in my opinion, that's a little bit weird. To me, this is a really weird thing to find funny. Like, this is people being stripped naked and basically raped or enslaved. And I know they're like political figures, but some of the people on those pictures are not political figures. They're kind of like faceless figures. And even if they are political figures, like, just imagine again if the genders were reversed and it was female politicians in that position and men were tweeting about it and laughing about it. You would never see an MRA take a picture of women being treated like that and laughing at it. So the fact that someone would actually find this funny in the first place, to me, is very strange. But let's take a look at some of the reactions, not just from her, but some other commenters. And remember, she's a very famous, prominent feminist figure on Twitter. And if you're one of those feminists that you don't understand why MRAs are anti-feminists, and you say, well, feminists aren't like that, we don't hate men, we don't feel those kinds of things, I understand where you're coming from. And I know that you probably feel you don't agree with the so-called crazy feminists online. But this is an example of what we see when we go on Twitter. This is not some fringe person. This is someone with over 200,000 followers. So consider the fact that this is someone that gets a lot of attention and gets a lot of space on the internet, and a lot of people following her and reading her. So a lot of young girls and boys see this kind of thing on a daily basis. So kind of imagine, what does that do to a young teenager when they see something like this online? And not only when they see it online, but when they see that a lot of people agree with it and support it. So let's look at some of the reactions and some of the comments this picture got, starting with Emraz. And I think I just showed this picture before. She responded to it, "Okay, this account is actually hilarious." Like, hilarious? And then right below that, "It's so funny. I love it." Huh. And this is kind of disappointing. Even Marianne Williamson, who was a nominee for president in the Democratic primaries. She made this tweet saying the picture was hilarious. And it's disappointing because I liked her. I think she's a good person. I don't think she's some crazy radical person. But the fact that someone like her would find this hilarious is an example of what MRAs mean when we say images like this of men are considered funny. You know, and yeah, it's a ridiculous picture, and it's obviously not serious, but the fact that people laugh at it kind of makes a point. The main point is that if the genders were reversed and the picture was the other way around, nobody would find it funny. And you definitely would not see presidential nominees posting it, calling it hilarious. And you might say, oh, that's just some stupid, dumb picture. I mean, no one takes that seriously. People are just kind of laughing at it. But that's kind of not the point. The point is the difference that we make between men and women, the different standards that we have. Because it's not just about this one dumb picture. That kind of difference that we have in our minds extends to other things. Like, if a girl slaps her boyfriend, oh, that's just funny. If a woman stabs a man, oh, that's just funny. It's just a man. Like when we take a baby boy and we strap him down and we cut his erogenous tissue off his penis when he's born. Oh, that's just circumcision. Oh, that's just a funny thing. Yeah, that's a line in a sitcom. Like when we take 18-year-old boys and we ship them off to war against their will and we draft them to go and die in another country. Oh, there's draft dodgers. It's this mentality that we have of treating men and women differently and treating men as more disposable or kind of deserving of that kind of treatments. Well, you're not deserving of that so much, but like it doesn't matter as much. Like we just don't care as much. We don't react to it the same way. That level of humanity is kind of missing there when we see something like that. This looks awesome. And let's take a look at her account. Look at what she says in her bio. This Twitter account is dedicated to hating men. And she has 25,000 followers. So again, if your younger brother is an MRA or anti-feminist and you're wondering why, that's the kind of stuff he sees on a regular basis. Man, this photo is awesome. This looks freaking awesome. Here's another tweet from a prominent feminist, Charlotte Clymer. Weird to tweet this at all. But also weird is choosing a pic where all the participants appear to be enjoying themselves. Really? Like, that's something feminists would joke about? So yeah, I mean, a lot of those comments are probably not being serious. And frankly, looking at the original account that made that tweet, that could be a parody account anyway. But the fact of the matter that people find it funny is kind of disturbing. And it's the kind of thing that MRAs mean where if the genders were reversed, nobody would make a joke out of it. And the fact that you have prominent feminist figures, like people who are aware of feminism and people who would like represent feminism, would laugh at a picture like this or kind of find a picture like this funny. I mean, look at it again. Feminists are finding this funny. Even if it was a parody account, or even if it was a conservative trying to make some crazy point. Just imagine if it was reversed. Now, I mean, is this picture serious? I mean, no. Is this going to happen? Obviously not. But the point is how we have different standards for things that we see and what we consider funny or not. And while this picture may not be a big deal, imagine if that draft with China actually happens. And I'm still doing that series, by the way. And I'm going to have something coming on that soon and continue that series soon, in case you don't know. I'm doing a series on why I think it's possible that the US might start a war with China and why there might be another draft and why millions of young men might be sent to die. But this is kind of part of that because this shows how we have this distinction in our brains between what we accept for men and what we accept for women. And this might be kind of a stupid, kind of ridiculous thing. But the fact that people on Twitter, the fact that like prominent feminists on Twitter are laughing at this, in my opinion, kind of shows something is a little bit off. And just one final time, just so it's totally clear, AOC had nothing to do with this picture or this tweet. This did not come from her. This did not come from her office or her campaign. She has nothing to do with this. Just so that's, again, clear. So please don't, think that she's anything to do with this, because she doesn't.